So what we found, it's not actually new that media in the Solomon Islands has been getting the Chinese funding. This is something that's been known for the last couple of years. What we've got is a proposal from the Solomon Star to the Chinese embassy for some funding for new equipment, in which they, explicitly say that they will give positive coverage to China's development assistance to Solomon Islands in return for this money.
Is it quite explicit that in the proposal that was promised?
It's a very explicit proposal. We counted about a dozen times in which the Solomon Star promised positive coverage in return for this money. In fact, some of the wording was essentially asking the Chinese embassy to hurry up because the delay was stopping them from carrying out their important work of telling the Solomon's public about China's great assistance for the country.
And is there evidence, Aubrey, that they actually got this funding?
Yes, we were able to confirm that at least the largest part of this proposal went ahead. The proposal included a quote from a printing supplies company in Brisbane. It's an itemised quote for new printing equipment for the newspaper. So we called up this company in Brisbane, showed them the quote, and they confirmed it was genuine and confirmed that they had been paid for this equipment and had delivered and installed it this February.
Yeah. So what comment has the Solomon Star made?
So the Solomon Star's Chief of Staff has hit back quite hard. We did confirm the veracity of this proposal with him and the former publisher of the newspaper before publishing, and he was fairly pugnacious then and has been similarly pugnacious. So he hasn't denied it, but has said, that the newspaper maintains its independence and has also, come back around and attacked the credibility of ourselves and also of other Solomon Islands journalists who helped out in the reporting of this.
Yeah, but when it comes to denying them, losing independence, you've seen further evidence that, in fact, there has been pressure on journalists there.
Yes, we actually saw an email after we published our story, which was referenced in The Guardian today, from the Chief of Staff of the Solomon Star, Alfred Sasako, to other staff of the newspaper, complaining about some very recent critical coverage of Sogavare's trip to China just 2 weeks ago, and telling them that this kind of coverage puts in danger their financial relationship with the Chinese embassy. So you can really see how this creates an ongoing incentive to toe the line, and it's really, it's right there and barely concealed.
Yeah, and puts journalists there in a very uncomfortable position.
It really does put journalists in an uncomfortable position, and Solomon's journalists have complained of this kind of pressure. Pressure on journalists isn't new in the Pacific, but this is a new kind of pressure they have to deal with, and it's not welcomed by many of them.
Yeah. Have other Solomon Island reporters indicated that they feel the Solomon Star is biased in their reporting?
So there's been a lot of widespread concern among Solomon's journalists for a couple of years now about not just the Solomon Star, but other media in the country losing their independence. There's concern about them losing their independence to, properly and critically cover the government, but also that the Chinese embassy has been giving, equipment and funding to other newspapers. Journalists have complained that this has resulted in pressure from their editors to pull their punches, to give positive coverage. And what this document that we found showed is that, in fact, in the case of the Solomon Star, they did promise positive coverage in return for this funding.
Yeah. Have any Solomon Star journalists indicated to you that they've faced other sort of pressures to report positively about China?
Yes, I don't want to go, talking too much about some of the details of this. You know, it's a small country. There's a lot of grumbling that goes on, maybe a little bit more privately, but there is pretty widespread concern among Solomon Islands journalists, including journalists that either are currently with the paper or have, you know, recently left the paper, about the direction of this newspaper and of other media.
Yeah. The Chief of Staff, I know, has also complained that the money hasn't come from Australia, for example, and that they've had no choice but to take money from China.
I mean, there has been a really difficult situation for all of the media in Solomons and in a lot of the Pacific because of, you know, declining commercial revenues, because of COVID, and there has been a perception that Australia and other democratic countries haven't given support to this sector. And that is a very widespread criticism. The difference is that, I mean, pretty much every Solomons journalist thinks that this is the case. The difference is that, you know, most journalists would not then cross the line of offering a foreign country positive coverage in return for funding. You know, a lot of journalists have seen how bad the situation is, and you know, they're trying to do their best, but they're putting a premium on maintaining their independence and objectivity.
Yeah, and that sort of changes the dynamic, if true. Well, really good reporting. Great to talk, Aubrey. Thank you.
Thank you.